Minnesota just hit a 4-year high in unemployment. Yes, the same state that once bragged about having more job openings than people to fill them. That sobering headline landed Thursday morning when the Minnesota Department of Employment and Economic Development, DEED, released its July numbers. After months of inching upward, the seasonally adjusted unemployment rate finally nudged to 3.5%, up from 3.3% in June, and the highest mark since August 2021. But here's where it gets controversial. DEED Commissioner Matt Verelek didn't just blame the usual suspects, like seasonal layoffs or a softening tech sector. Instead, he pointed to a perfect storm of federal job cuts, stalled government funding, unpredictable tariff policies, and a sharp slowdown in immigration. In plain English, decisions made hundreds or thousands of miles away, from Washington trade rooms to the southern border, are now showing up in Minnesota paychecks. The raw numbers feel both large and oddly intimate. Roughly 109,000 Minnesotans are officially counted as unemployed, and the labor force participation rate slipped to 68.1%. That may sound like a tiny dip, yet in a state of 5.7 million people, every tenth of a percentage point represents thousands of families deciding whether to keep looking for work or step away entirely. July's payroll data tell an even starker story. Minnesota employers trimmed a net 4,400 positions last month. Only 2 broad industry supersectors managed to add jobs: education, health services, and construction. The other 8 shrank, with government payrolls alone shedding 3,500 positions, a 1.2% drop in a single month. Picture every public sector job in a mid-sized Minnesota city vanishing overnight. That's essentially what the data describe. And this is the part most people miss. Even at 3.5%, Minnesota's unemployment rate is still well below the national 4.2% figure. And our labor force participation, 68.1%, towers over the U.S. average of 62.2%. Translation: Minnesota's job market is cooling, but it hasn't crashed. Wages are still rising faster than inflation, and employers continue to complain, quietly, that good talent is hard to find. Yet the reliability of those very numbers is under fire. During Thursday's press briefing, Verelek voiced a worry rarely spoken aloud by a state official. The federal data pipeline itself may be compromised. President Trump recently dismissed the Bureau of Labor Statistics commissioner after employment revisions painted a weaker picture than the White House preferred. Verelek warned that nonpartisan statisticians could now fear for their jobs simply for publishing inconvenient truths. If the people counting the scoreboard start changing the rules mid-game, how do we know the final tally is real? He asked rhetorically. DEED's own Angelina Wynn, Director of Labor Market Information, tried to calm nerves by explaining how revisions work. Every month's headline figure is preliminary, she noted. Survey responses keep trickling in for weeks. Think of it like assembling a jigsaw puzzle, with half the pieces still in the mail. A month later, more pieces arrive. The picture sharpens, and the numbers shift. Revisions aren't conspiracy. They're math catching up with reality. Still, the political spin machine is already whirring. At a St. Cloud bus factory Thursday, U.S. Representative Tom Emmer, the House's third-ranking Republican, predicted an economic takeoff once Congress passes President Trump's signature tax and spending package, dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill. Emmer brushed aside Congressional Budget Office warnings that the measure could balloon the federal deficit. History shows the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act sparked the strongest economy in decades, he insisted. Give it 6 to 12 months, and the CBO will be proven wrong again. Bold claim, but will voters reward the gamble if paychecks don't fatten soon? That's the trillion-dollar question hanging over every dinner table conversation from Duluth to Mankato. So what should everyday Minnesotans take away from this flood of statistics and sound bites? 1. The job market is still tight by historical standards, but the trend line is unmistakably softening. If you've been toying with a career move, the window of maximum leverage may be narrowing. 2. Public sector layoffs, especially in education, human services, and infrastructure, are accelerating. If your household relies on a government paycheck, now is the time to stress test your budget. 3. Wage growth remains robust, but it's uneven. Nurses, electricians, and software engineers are still naming their price. Retail clerks and hospitality workers are seeing offers flatten or even dip. 4. The reliability of future job reports is suddenly a political football. Keep an eye on multiple data sources, state filings, LinkedIn hiring trends, even anecdotal chatter in industry Slack channels before making life-altering decisions. Controversial thought to chew on. If federal policy choices, tariffs, immigration caps, mass layoffs can swing Minnesota's jobless rate this dramatically, how much control does any state really have over its own economic destiny? Are we passengers on a national policy roller coaster, or can local leaders still steer the ride? Your turn. Do you feel the slowdown in your own workplace, or is this the first you're hearing of it? Are you worried about the accuracy of government job data, or do you trust the process? Drop your experience or skepticism in the comments. Let's see if the lived reality matches the spreadsheets.